Well, the High Court of the arms deal trial involving former South African President Jacob Zuma has been postponed again, this time due to Zuma's ill health. The High Court in Pietermaritzburg, Pietermaritzburg agreed to postpone the case to next month. The court was told that Zuma's illness results from a medical condition he has been battling for at least 18 months. Joining me now to unpack this further is South African journalist and editor Diane Hawker. Diane, just, me stuttering on that word. Well, did the court hear any detail about Zuma's illness earlier today?
Good evening, Suleiman, and good evening as well to the viewers. The Pietermaritzburg High Court didn't hear any particularly specific detail about Zuma's illness. This hearing was heard virtually, which meant that, the usual kind of crowd support that one usually sees around the Zuma case was not there. When it comes to the condition of the former president, the court heard that he had suffered some kind of illness about 18 months ago, and that he's been receiving ongoing care from the South African National Defence Force since November 2020. Now, the SANDF treats all former presidents and former deputy presidents, and that's why they are offering the care to the former president, Jacob Zuma. He was taken from the Correctional Services facility to one of the SANDF hospitals where he's being treated. But what his lawyers seem to be suggesting is that his incarceration period has somehow exacerbated this illness. Although they didn't say how it would have done so, the NPA seem a little bit skeptical about this, and they're saying that if the case is postponed once more, they will actually want their own doctor to examine former President Zuma just to confirm whether the medical diagnosis being given is actually accurate. The case has been postponed until the 9th of September for that process to unfold. And Zuma's lawyers have to submit a medical report to the court so that they can get a better understanding of what the condition actually is and what's the treatment that's required, as well as how this will actually affect the court case.
Well, the postponement of this case still doesn't make it clear whether Zuma will be fit for trial. So tell us what may just happen in the days ahead.
Yes, absolutely. So the court gave some important deadlines to the legal team. By the 20th of August, the Zuma legal team will have to submit that medical report. And then what will happen is that the prosecution will have an opportunity to look at the details of that report and decide on whether it believes or doesn't believe that the former president is still well. If is unwell, if the medical report clears the former president, Jacob Zuma, for trial, then the trial will continue on the 9th and the 10th of September, and there won't be any issue. But if the medical report suggests that he won't be well enough for trial, then the prosecution has an opportunity to get their own doctor to examine him and produce another medical report. And then they will also have an opportunity for the doctors, whether there's one or two, to actually come and testify in court as to what it is they found. And this will be the doctor who's treating Zuma, as well as the doctor that the prosecution may choose to appoint. So there's likely to be a lot of medical back and forth about whether this should actually go ahead or not, and whether the former president is actually fit to stand trial.
Pretty longer trial. It's been going on for over a decade now. So how do you see this hitting a conclusion?
Well, these medical issues are actually issues that we've seen come up in some other important cases. And in the past, we've seen that sometimes medical issues can actually delay a case for quite an extended period of time. And that's why the prosecution are pushing to have their own medical expert do an examination. For example, in one of the cases involving one of the people accused of state capture, this is Angelo Agrizzi, he has had a number of medical issues crop up since he was arrested. And what it has resulted in is a delay in the case. What the prosecution would have to consider if these delays are ongoing ongoing is whether they perhaps separate any other parties involved in the case. Now, we know the French arms company, Thales, is a co-accused. And every time that there's a delay, it affects their right to a fair trial, quite frankly. So in cases like this, the prosecution often has to make a decision to decide, do they then separate the cases of the different accused so that they can deal with the medical matters in the one instance and then carry on with the trial in another instance. But the Zuma case is very complex, and I think that they would be reluctant to actually separate the case because of the complexity of the matters, as well as the fact that there's so much evidence that dates back 2003 or even before then. So it's quite a lot of evidence dating back a long time, which if they separated the two cases, they would have to then deal with all of that twice. Hence, they're trying to make sure that the trial actually goes ahead, that Zuma's special plea that he's brought before the court is actually dealt with urgently, and then they'll be able to actually get into the actual crux of the matter, which we've been waiting for much more than a decade to actually hear.
Well, Diane Hawken, many thanks for your time.